Okay. Well, thank you. My co-speakers, panelists, and thank you, the participants for joining us. And so please feel free to use the chat for conversations. And but if you have a question that you'd like responded, please use the QA in Hoover. So this way we can notice your question immediately. My name is Lipsmeyer. I'm a professor of learning sciences and technologies at Southern Methodist University. I'll be mainly the moderator of the session. Let me invite the main speakers of the panel to introduce themselves first. So Laurie, I'll invite you to say a bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much, Lynn, and excited for the opportunity to share. My name is Dr. Laurie Cook, and I serve as the Director of Clinical Research at the Center for Brain Health, which is a part of the University of Texas at Dallas. And I largely oversee our big research efforts around brain health, as well as a lot of our programs that are really about youth and students and developing brains.
Thank you, Laurie. Aaron?
Yes, thank you. I'm Aaron Tate. I am the Director of Emerging Technology at Center for Brain Health. You'll have to excuse my voice tonight. I'm somewhat hindered, but I've been at the center for over a decade, and I've been working mainly on the Charisma platform. And here in the last couple of years, I've worked on the Brain Health Project, both of which really at their core are technology platforms that educate individuals about brain health and social cognition.
Thank you, Aaron. Eric?
Oh, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Eric Kildebeck. I run a center at UT Dallas called the Center for Engineering and Innovation, a separate center from the Center for Brain Health. My background is in medicine. I have an MD PhD, and my PhD is in gene editing. But at the Center for Engineering and Innovation, we do a variety of things, including artificial intelligence work and social science and education. And so I run a platform there called the Polycraft World Platform, which is an educational mod in Minecraft that I'll be talking about today. And we're using that platform to partner with Brain Health and with Lynn to deliver some modules to help students learn executive functioning skills.
Thank you, Eric. So Eric, you have the control, right?
Yeah.
Of the slide. Okay, could you move to the next slide?
Yes.
So I will provide a context of how we came together. We've been collaborating on a funded project, developing young people's executive function skills using Minecraft, as Eric mentioned before, a Polycraft. In the past 3 years or so, as part of the Brain Health Project, which Laurie and Aaron will talk more. So we've been meeting regularly in the past 3 years, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, for the 3 years. So Eric, if you move to the next slide. And here you will see a screenshot of one of our Zoom meetings. And so we'd love to use this opportunity to share some of our insights. So, so we thought that we would, Eric, next one, please. We thought we would structure today's panel into 3 main areas of focus, which are the 3 Ps, namely personal agency, proactive mindset, performance tools, including personalization to facilitate personal agency, as well as proactive mindset. So we thought we would have a break in the middle to respond to questions, and then we'll complete our presentations. So to start, I will invite Laurie to provide an overview of the mission and vision of the Brain Health Project. So Laurie, take it away.
Thank you so much. So as you've likely noticed, we really framed this discussion around brain health. So I want to start off by talking about, first off, where is this coming from? What is the Center for Brain Health? What is brain health? And then how does that connect to empowering learners through AI? So real quickly, for those of you who aren't familiar, so the University of Texas at Dallas, we are part of the UT system, but we are located in the city of Dallas, specifically in Richardson. But we actually are, the Center for Brain Health is one of the satellite research centers for the university. We're located in Dallas. And we really are, first and foremost, a research center. We have more than 130 personnel, including research scientists, clinicians, as well as a lot of related experts, but our emphasis is really on cognitive neuroscience. So not only research that helps us, really continue to make breakthroughs and discoveries to that point, but also how can we really translate what we're learning in research to meaningful, programs and services for the public. Next slide, please, Eric. And I think one thing that's really unique about not only our center, but also even just this research and our discussion today is really this concept of brain health. Interestingly, I often hear it said, so the Center for Brain Health was established in 1999. And in fact, we essentially have a trademark on the word brain health because nobody at the time was using the two words together. Right? So often we don't think of our brain in health. We only think of our brain, when there might be cause for concern, right? In the context of decline, maybe associated with aging or after a disease or injury diagnosis. So one of the things that we are really working hard to do is bring the research around the brain and health. What can be done in the context of a healthy brain, really across the lifespan. And you'll see this is really an emerging field that really goes across many disciplines, not just medicine, but also now as we see education, corporate, so many applications of brain health. So think of brain health as being defined as just really making the most of your brain's skills, your brain's capacities to thrive in your context, right? And this applies to every one of us who has a brain. So in our context, we really modified from the World Health Organization definition of brain health now of this is the ability to continually promote optimal brain development. So as we look at our youth and young adults, as well as our cognitive health, our emotional well-being, and even our connectedness to other people and our own purpose across the lifespan in our daily lives. So truly, we're defining brain health holistically. And I think it's so important, I think especially as we think of our young people and students and learners at large, just how important it is and how this factors into their effectiveness as students in their lives. Next slide, please, Eric. So I hope you walk away from this, especially this whole discussion today too, with a better understanding and appreciation for brain health, what that means, and really just shifting the conversation away from the brain is all about, and brain research is all about, addressing decline or deficit, for example, and really considering, okay, how can we use what we've learned about the brain and the tools that are being developed now to help us really promote brain gain, right? Or, really help us, reinforce proactive habits to support brain health across many different areas. So focusing on that performance and enhancement or optimizing your brain health, and in turn, how you're meeting those daily goals, be it in education or work or life. So a lot of the work now is how can we use this knowledge to really create tools that are going to not just educate people in their brain health, but truly engage and even empower people individually to take control of things that they can do to optimize their brain health, their wellness, and their performance. Next slide, please. So just to quickly mention, so I think each of us is going to give a quick little overview of some of the platforms that we're going to discuss tonight, but I'll kick it off by mentioning one of our newest and biggest research initiatives focused on brain health is a large online research study called the Brain Health Project. This is a longitudinal study, so 10 years. We hope to go even beyond that as we're able to. But the goal is to enroll upwards of 120,000 generally healthy individuals and really provide a platform and opportunity for them to, one, gain meaningful insight on their own, their individualized brain health across all these different areas holistically, as well as have access to continuing tools to help them support their daily brain health. And so obviously this is going to necessitate a very user-focused design. We'll be incorporating aspects of brain health literacy, but ultimately it's about helping people build better brain habits through using these tools. And, AI factors hugely into helping us improve our abilities in regard to measurement, as well as training, building habits, and really reinforcing that iterative, continually improving tool. Next slide, please, Eric. And then one of the other platforms that we have really developed and implemented here at Brain Health, and you'll learn a lot more about, especially from Erin Tate, my colleague here, is a different sort of platform. We call it Charisma. But this is a tool that's really allowed us to engage in social coaching using this virtual immersive environment. So a social coaching platform. So really engaging clinicians and coaches along with individuals, especially geared towards students and young adults who really want to enhance their social capacities and abilities. So it really is an amazing, rich clinical tool that also, again, provides a lot of opportunities to incorporate sort of AI-driven mechanisms to enhance the delivery, both for the user as well as for the coaches and clinicians that are engaging with it. So with that, I'm going to pass the torch now to Eric to speak to the Polycroc platform.
Great. Yeah, the immersive platform that my team works on and builds is the Polycraft World platform, which, as I said earlier, is a mod for Minecraft. And so we built this 8 years ago. We started building it, and it's a very large mod. We've added 4,000 items and inventories and features to the game. And the basic concept, which is now starting to take off, which is cool to see with Minecraft education. And I just recently saw Amazon released a cloud training environment just recently where you can do immersive game learning. But the idea is to learn while doing. And Minecraft gives you this opportunity for an anthropomorphic, 3D environment where you can have self-driven behavior. And so we've added all this stuff to the game. We've used it to supplement graduate level polymer chemistry courses at UT Dallas and at Carnegie Mellon. We've had millions of web interactions. We published this work in Nature Chemistry. We've been featured in NPR and some other major news avenues. And then we've also awarded scholarships and shown that we can drive creative behavior from crowds by offering these scholarships where you get $1,000 or $3,000 to go for college tuition. And then a lot of students will go and participate. And that's really cool to see as well. Down in the bottom left is a scale replica of the UT Dallas campus in Polycraft World. And the second main part of this platform, in addition to the human player experience, is the AI lab. And so we've built an AI test bed for the Defense Department, where the Defense Department really liked the ability in Minecraft to create these large-scale open worlds. Because if you look at the current shortcomings of AI today, a lot of it is that their AI becomes extremely good at doing specific tasks in closed environments. But once you release it into the real world and it starts trying to solve problems, it invariably encounters things it hasn't seen before. And then it starts to fail in new and spectacular ways, which is slowing down a lot of technology development and the ability to realize the strengths of AI in autonomous systems. So we built a test bed that enables human-only social science experiments, human AI experiments, and AI-only experiments. You can see some of the elements of that platform on the right. And we've used this in multiple DoD programs to build and test AI agents. And so we'll be talking about, that. So, okay, and I think, Len, I can turn it over to you. I hope you're muted right now.
Okay, so now we'll shift to the three main three P's we would like to focus for today. In the first two items, personal agency, proactive mindset, and then we usually connect these concepts to learners being proactive, to having a growth mindset. So Lori, could you say more about this?
Absolutely. So I'll kick it off with first kind of the tie to brain science, and then I'll transition to my colleagues to really speak to the tools. So much of our recent research, let's say in the last 20 years in particular, around neuroscience is really centered or really springboarded by the discoveries that have been made regarding neuroplasticity. And, very simply put, neuroplasticity really represents the brain's moldability, the fact that the brain is really constantly changing based on, the input to the brain, as well as, the experiences that we have. So we're essentially, especially for somebody who works with young people, I often tell them you are essentially your own neuroengineer, where you are engineering, you're building the brain that you use based on, the experiences and how you engage your brain in what you do every day. And, neuroplasticity can be both positive in terms of really engineering strong connections and functions, or, it can be negative. There might be some more harmful practices or, toxic habits, if you will, that could maybe reinforce some negative aspects in terms of our brain function. And so really neuroplasticity at large has provided a lot of hope and I would say empowerment to individuals to really recognize, what, my brain is not just this black box that I have no control over, but essentially I have, again, that personal agency, that self-driven personal agency to direct my brain power, and in turn, my brain processes and functions in some really powerful ways. So really, this is the impetus for many approaches to, optimizing brain health, that are really grounded in principles of neuroplasticity. And for example, one of the prominent ways of engaging in brain training, for example, would be a strategy-based approach. So how can we, again, not just educate, but even empower and equip people with strategies for how they choose to engage in their learning or manage their daily tasks. So that's where some of these other wonderful practices, such as trainings around executive function skills, can really play a powerful role. So I think starting with that emphasis on let's help people recognize their personal agency and what are some tools that we can use to help them really implement that for themselves. So with that, I'll pass it to Aaron to speak to the first application here.
Yeah, so let me start by giving you a little bit more about the Brain Health Project. Brain Health Project, as Lori said, is a 10-year longitudinal study. And to keep people engaged for 10 years, we really have to make it user-friendly and keep them interested in what we are offering, which we're offering a brain health literacy platform curriculum that, is partially self-driven, but it also, it is delivery of brain health coaching as well. One of the things that we see with our brain health coaching is that it's not always equally distributed to people who may not be able to take coaching sessions during the day while our clinicians are in the office. We do have clinicians that are elsewhere, but it's just really hard for us to get everyone a coaching session. So there's things that we can do with AI, especially with, if we had a chat bot that was able to deliver some of this brain health literacy, and it was available 24/7 for someone just to ask questions that they may need a little bit of a deeper explanation of. Even though we're delivering this training, we're delivering these concepts and strategies in our training, it's, often begets more questions. Likewise, precision brain health. Not everyone needs the exact same coaching. And so by, giving them an assessment that generates their brain health index and taking that assessment and generating a score that can be used to weight what training is delivered up first will be a way to give people the ability to get the most impact quickly with their training. I'm really sorry for my voice. Likewise, with that custom content delivery, we're able to modify content for different cultures, different languages. These are all things that we're looking at as potential uses for AI. And likewise, the way a coach would maybe meet with you and give you feedback on your assessments, your brain health index, how you scored on different areas of your brain health index. We'd be able to deliver immediate, targeted feedback to a user. We develop profiles with those scores and then generate an explanation based on that instead of having to wait for that coaching session to take place. But also, there's even more exciting possibilities with our Charisma platform. If you go to the next slide. Our Charisma platform is really a immersive platform that it started in Second Life. We were, doing these social role play scenarios. Traditionally, it might be done across a table or, observing behaviors on a playground. But we were, our executive director, Dr. Chapman, she saw someone playing Second Life and really saw possibilities within that, and to use it as a clinical tool. And so we got to work internally to build our own for immersive platform. That has been iterated over the years, and we're, I think, 12 plus years past that initial inception point. And so now we've got a fully immersive platform that allows users to meet up with the participants, our clients in a virtual world, role play these social scenarios, and can you go? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong deck. And potential implementation of AI here. We actually got an early start on AI implementation on this platform. We were working on AI implementation 2 years prior to, the release of and the sudden AI boom that we've seen with ChatGPT coming out. We have been working on collecting data so that we can start to generate these social prompts for coaches. And we're hoping that generating of social prompts that will create these social scenarios for our coaches to role play with the clients will feed into a model that will eventually allow autonomous sessions. Right now, a typical Charisma engagement is 10 hours over 5 weeks. That's a ton of clinical time for each participant. And so if we can even take that down by half, that's a huge expansion of the people that we can reach with this proven effective social cognitive training. Some of the ways that we're going to feed this model is hopefully be able to identify the social competencies as they're exhibited in the virtual world. If someone exhibits the social competency of recognizing emotion in others, we want to not have the clinician take the time to, check that off our list, but rather the system actually picks that up and marks it in the system. They exhibited this competency at this time point in the experience. So by implementing those types, we can create a personalized experience for those that are actively seeking to improve their social skills. We'll also build into that profile things like recognizing of emotional or facial expressions and tonal quality to really give a full profile of what the user is experiencing in that social interaction. But yeah, that's just a couple of the ways that we are looking at integrating AI into our two big our digital kind of health educational platforms that we have at the Center for Brain Health. And I'm really excited about the stuff Eric's doing over at his Center for Innovation Engineering. But Eric, do you want to tell us a little bit more about Polycraft?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Lori and Aaron said, they were talking about their immersive brain health platforms. And we're talking about it kind of from the other side of using an established, very popular platform in Minecraft, and then using that to facilitate brain health. And so what I'd like to talk about a little bit is why, as we look forward over the next 5, 10, 20 years, what do we think is going to happen for brain health instruction through immersive platforms? Now, if we look at this, even in the last 20 years, there's been a massive, massive shift in how people see video games. 20 years ago, video games were the devil and you were rotting your brain. Now, if you're doing video games, people see a lot of value in that, but it's a, plus minus whether it's useful. And I think what we've seen and what's relevant to AI is that immersive environments and video games specifically serve as a scaffold for human activity. Whereas if you look at the experience of a normal student where learning, going to class, taking quizzes, studying is usually a kind of recalcitrant behavior that people try to avoid if possible and try to minimize, video games are the exact opposite. They lead to motivated, engaged, rewarding behavior that are very synergistic with people's identities and help people build themselves up instead of feeling like they're missing out on other things. How is this relevant for education? Well, you learn by doing instead of seeing or listening, as is typically the case in instructional education. And then you get to use these scaffold elements to drive your learning, such as leveling up your character and skills. It drives intrinsic motivation. You get to not only learn knowledge, but then apply it to realistic challenges. You also have a social element and leaderboards that drive all sorts of creative activity for people to try to win and beat their friends. And, just want to go to the next slide. And so how is AI going to empower this? Well, this is perhaps the most straightforward way in which AI will empower this. If you think about immersive video games right now, I'll use, Zelda or World of Warcraft as two, Grand Theft Auto even, as incredibly popular examples. In those games, personalization, or not personalization, but having agency to control the world is not the norm and is very rare. So one of the things that makes these games really successful is that as you play, you're not told exactly what to do. You can explore, but as you explore, you're really just unlocking content. You're unlocking parts of the world. If we take quests in these games, every player ends up seeing the same quests. It's just what order do you see them in? Which ones do you do? They're kind of like 10 games in one. And so you have a feeling of personal agency because you're choosing which parts of the game to engage with. But if you look at how people engage with generative AI or human AI teams, it's a completely different experience that has profound implications for personal agency. Imagine you're playing a game and you're trying to solve a problem, and you can now use an AI teammate or battle against an AI adversary or use a generative AI to really fundamentally change the world around you. And that's what AI is going to do to really help unlock creativity and make this learning process in immersive environments much more engaging and much more fun. Here's an example of immersive behavior and how this engenders personal agency. Can y'all hear that? No. That's fine. There's really fun music, but I didn't, when I did the screen share, I didn't click the music part. So this is a COVID experience we built for a nonprofit called Best Robotics, which teaches middle schoolers and high schoolers how to build robots. And during the COVID pandemic, they weren't allowed to hold their competitions because of social distancing. And so because of this platform, we were able to quickly build an experience for them where they, instead of us, ham-fistedly telling them how COVID works and how vaccines work, they go in, they build up a clinic, and then villagers start showing up. And if they don't want to get sick, they have to build personal protective equipment. They have to build, Yeah, that was from back in COVID times. They have to build COVID testing kits, and then they have to go up to the villagers and see if they're sick. If they're sick, they need to make FDA-approved treatments or make vaccines. All the while trying to have the Dallas chapter of Best Robotics beat the DC chapter or beat the Kansas City chapter to see who can reach herd immunity first. And this type of immersive learning gives a lot of opportunities for personal agency that just aren't there in other things. And again, through human AI teams and user-guided generative AI in particular, these things are going to become really exciting in the future. The other, if you go back to our thing, we're talking about personal agency and proactive mindset right now. And on the proactive mindset idea, I think this is going to be a really important one, both for AI and for learning in general. Because if you look at users, traditional education delivery, you can only teach to a certain segment of the class. And we talk about educational disparities and disenfranchised students. There are a lot of students who, they want to take AP chemistry, but the teacher at their school isn't great at AP chemistry, or their school doesn't even offer AP courses, or they don't have access to a good school district. Or if you, fall behind and then you're trying to catch up, well, the teacher then the next year or the next 2 years or 3 years can't target that lesson to you. And in immersive environments, that's something that AI is going to become incredibly good at, is helping students wherever they are. If they're an exceptional student that's far past the average, or if they're struggling and need to spend more time on fundamental activities, the ability to restructure and personalize the world, personalize the quests, where you learn from the player's behavior. What's their reward style? What kind of cultural setting do they like? What's their learning speed? And then changing the world around them to match that and to facilitate their learning. That is going to engender students across the spectrum of demographics and learning styles and ability in given subjects to all feel motivated and excited in that. And that's enabled by the deep learning that you can do on the types of logs you get from immersive environments. Because instead of asking a quiz question at the end of the week, in immersive environments, you get 20 hertz, you can measure everything people do at least 20 times a second or more. That's what we do in Minecraft. And then you can use those rich player logs to start to correlate in using deep learning models. When people behave like this is the type of outcomes that are going to happen. And this is the type of changes to the environment that lead to better results. So with that, I'll end that section and turn it back over to Lynn.
Right. So I guess we can pause a little bit just to hear what the other participants here, what you have in mind in terms of, personal agency, proactive mindset. I know different disciplines probably use the terms differently. But I think a lot of us here are very interested in, self-directed learning, and just agency, learners agency, growth mindset. So just want to hear a bit about, what you have in mind in terms of your experiences or any questions you have before we move forward.
I don't know if there are any hands up. We're nice. We won't bite. If anybody has any questions.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, feel free to anytime, put your comments, questions in the chat or in the QA. So I think we will just proceed with the, the performance tools. Laurie, Aaron, Eric actually already have talked about, some of the tools that are facilitating, the agency, the proactivity in the learning process. So, let's hear more about, some of the other things that they've been doing and we've been doing related to the tools, new technologies that we've been working on. So Lori, I'll pass on to you first.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. So yeah, this third P around performance tools, I think especially, and Eric has already alluded to this a bit, a lot of it is driven by personalization, right? As we think of really making the most of these technologies and tools. And so in fact, one of our big goals with brain health too is really promoting, accessibility to precision brain health. And, you're seeing this term used more, for example, in medicine, precision medicine, recognizing that no one treatment is going to necessarily be the right fit for all. And so how can we really identify for any one individual, what is it about their unique makeup, considering their genetics, their circumstances, their you name it, so many different factors that might be individualized and unique to that individual that could inform the best treatment approach for them to maximize their outcomes. The same is true for brain health and for learning, even. So how can we apply those same principles to help us really develop a precision approach to brain health? Because there are so many different paths to support your brain health. So for example, when we talk about, how do we assess brain health firstly in a way that's going to allow us to really uncover individual needs and help them identify, areas where they might, can really accomplish their goals better. For one individual, it might be largely through the path of enhancing their sleep. I think this is so relevant to any of us who work with students. And, we can absolutely capture that in the context of assessment. And then as we translate that to, really, again, engaging them in training-based tools, we can emphasize and really direct them to things that are really going to enhance that, and in turn, hopefully their goals and outcomes around that. One example I can think of, since sleep comes to mind, just to share a quick student example. We had a college age participant, who was taking part in the Brain Health Project. And I have the pleasure of getting to serve not only as a researcher on the project, but also one of our brain health coaches. I have a clinical background as well. And, as we walked through our brain health training, we really did, or assessment, we did identify sleep as an area where he was experiencing a lot of challenge, not an uncommon story for our students. And an aspect of his brain health training, he had the opportunity to really dig into, building some daily brain healthy habits that would better support his sleep. One, for example, was a habit around, getting his devices out of the bedroom. So, for example, charging his cell phone somewhere else in his apartment, not having it right next to the bed. This was a habit that he decided to take on, and really using these tools to track that, to provide some accountability, to provide some encouragement and nudging, and even some ideas for how to implement that. And when, we reconnected for a coaching session, he said just that was transformative for him. And what was interesting is this was a habit, a practice that not only enhanced his sleep, but we could also in turn see what was the kind of greater impact there. So by enhancing his sleep, he was also finding some wonderful benefits for his well-being, right? Experiencing less stress, in turn allowing him to have more opportunity to engage in his passions. Yes, I love what Lynn just contributed to the chat. Small things matter. And I think that's a really important theme here as we think of really making the most of equipping people through these tools, but really providing that precision approach to allow them to, reap the benefits of that in their own context. So with that, I'm going to kick it back over to Erin to give some more examples about how we do this, again, using a strategy-based approach and really thinking about this as an ecosystem. I think AI is one of those wonderful tools to support not only, again, the users or the learners in this context, but also, the folks who are really helping support support their learning, support their brain health. So Aaron, take it away.
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to go to the next slide, actually skip that one. I tried to hide it. So yeah, on our Brain Health Project platform, one of the biggest things that the coaches have to focus on is there's as much, we have 20 plus assessments that are delivered to generate our brain health index, and that takes about an hour and a half of time of the user, of the participant. But about five of those assessments need to be manually scored still. And we're looking at ways that we can use natural language processing and automate those scorings for, quicker turnaround. Because if we can improve that system performance, hopefully, people want that result right now. And if I've got somebody on the line, say I'm, in sales, and I've got somebody on the line right now that's wanting to buy something and I can't give it to them, they're going to go find somebody else. They're going to go to some other platform or something and see what else is offered. Where we know, our smart training, it works. If that's been through our research, it's been proven to work. And I think like being able to turn that assessment around quickly and automate that scoring really helps keep the user engaged. If you're having to wait, you're going to be less engaged. Likewise, if we are, the small things matter, like Lynn said, and if we know what type of, nudges the system needs to send out to engage a certain user, to keep their brain health front of mind, then we can target those specific types of nudges to, help develop those habits. And that just really ensures, a smoother and efficient learning process. In our game-based platform, there's, some platforms have a little bit more of a learning curve than others. And so in our game-based platform, some of the things like navigating the world, that can just be a little bit of time that it takes a coach to, get them more comfortable in that virtual world. The more we can automate those types of things, the more we can give them tutorials that are recognizing a deficit in how they're navigating. Show and just have a quick prompt that tells them how they need to engage this side. It'll get them moving so they can get learning faster. But ultimately, even though we are taking away and optimizing the user's experience, that's not at the sacrifice of human engagement. Our goal is substantial human engagement, meaningful human engagement. And so we want to limit the onboarding process and limit the, just standard content delivery, so we can optimize the coach's time to deliver the most impactful, pieces of the different strategies that the platforms use or platforms teach. So, I mean, that's really kind of the way we're trying to, use AI in our digital platforms to boost performance.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, and I'll finish up by discussing how we're using it in our Polycraft platform right now, or one of the ways we're using it. And that is to help utilize the rich analytics that are possible in immersive environments. And so we talked about this a little bit, about how the open world behavior enables, a proactive mindset and personal agency. But then it's really powerful for AI as well. Because if you think about, if you get results from a student and you just get a quiz score, versus if imagine you're a teacher and you're watching a class all day. The teacher who watches a class all day has a lot more insights into well, why is this student struggling? Oh, it's because they never opened their book once and they were talking, whereas this person was really working and struggling. And the type of analytics that you can do with AI, again, if you have a log of everything somebody's doing, and this is something we're doing in our brain health module, you can start to look at not just did they get questions right, but what percentage of their time are they spending on the main goal instead of side goals? How often do they start doing something and then stop? How active are they? Are they doing 100 things a minute or 10 things a minute? How social are they? Are they using chat? Do they lead their chat? And all of those things are effectively impossible to monitor because of the scale of the data without AI. But with AI watching that, you can move from not just having a quiz or test score, which is normal, and not just having a teacher watching them, but having somebody watching, every behavior they're making. And then a fairly famous example is the type of chain of thought prompting and reasoning that's currently being used with generative AI and chatbots. And you can turn that on its head, where then by watching this behavior and seeing which parts of problems students struggle on, you can start to understand not only which knowledge they don't have, but which step of the reasoning, which part of the logic they're struggling on. And then you can give them a quest or give them a question that helps to reinforce and build their confidence and ability in that specific thing, which is something that you could only get right now really with as Aaron was saying, a one-on-one tutor sitting with the student going, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? Which obviously is not a very scalable solution, particularly in resource limited settings. So here's an example of some of our leaderboards and just showing all the different things you can calculate for all the different people and how this all just can feed into a model. And so that's an example of how you can use AI uniquely in immersive environments to help drive this type of learning. And so with that, I think that's our last slide.
Right. So we went through these 3 Ps: personal agency, proactive mindset, performance tools, really using this as a framework to think about new technologies, including AI technologies, how they the new technologies can be used to personalize people's behaviors and approaches to address different people's concerns. As Lori and Aaron mentioned several times, the precision part of the process, and we talk about individual differences. And I think now we actually do have the possibility to look more into those differences and to be able to address different concerns. So this is a summary of what we talked about today, and we have just a few minutes left. So just wondering if people have any questions or comments.
I have a question if no one in the audience has one. We'd love to have one from the audience if you want. But while we're waiting for that, Lori and Aaron, I think one of the interesting things we're seeing in AI is that, it's kind of like what happened in gene editing. For a long time, it was just about trying to make a tool that worked. But then once you make a tool that worked, it's really about applying it. And in AI, the way that's playing out is that a lot of the models that took a long time to develop into something that could do something useful, now you can get them kind of off the shelf. And now what's starting to matter a lot is the data. Whoever owns or controls the data that can be used to train the models, because everybody has access to a lot of these really super powerful open source models, including the LLM from Facebook competing with ChatGPT, open source. And so that's, I think, a really interesting note about the Brain Health Project is 120,000 participants is not something you see every day or even every year in clinical study at all. And that's going to produce a tremendous amount of data that no one else is really going to have access to that could help drive AI-driven insights into correlations of health that, in the same way that AI designs new drugs, seeing things that humans would never really be able to see. anyways, I don't know if y'all have any thoughts on that, but I think that's a pretty cool aspect of it.
I would love to hear, your thoughts, Lori, but that is something that, we talk about internally is right now we're collecting this rich assessment data. We're also, have engagement data. So we kind of the idea is that our control are people that just don't participate as much, so we've got the whole spectrum of engagement. And by looking at, different pieces of content, different trainings, different habits that are formed between the individuals, there's a story to tell there. And you're absolutely right that it's going to take a lot of processing power to really start to chomp on that data set. We're looking right now at just making sure we have a robust data pipeline, and how we're starting to really build out the infrastructure needed so that we can, join certain things and process certain data sets. But, still in just 2 years into this project, there's a lot of potential with the data that we're collecting, and we could just set people, I think, to writing papers on what we've already collected, and they could, be employed the duration of the project. Laura, do you want to expand at all?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. And then, yeah, just the possibilities. That was the idea behind, and I think you're seeing this more and more with sort of the big data approaches to these important questions, is the fact that, we want it to drive new discoveries and new questions. So one of the things I love about, an approach like the Brain Health Project is it's not one of those rigid protocols that will never change over the course of the 10 years. Like, as we learn, make new discoveries or gain new tools or have the opportunity to implement, new pieces, the research, the protocols, it evolves with it. So it really is this wonderful, I think, much like AI and how the process continues to learn and improve. We really want to apply that to our research and our evolving questions as well. So, we're already looking at other things that could be, incorporated and again, drive new discoveries. So as we, engage other research collaborators, and maybe have the ability to interface with some people in person and not just online, can we, collect some really important biomarkers that could help inform some predictive questions around brain health and approaches that are effective for some versus others, or how people might respond. So it's really exciting to be a part of a sort of big data project that also is very dynamic, just like our brains are. So I think a lot to be learned by that.
Thank you, Lori. We do have a question here. I want to make sure we get that answered before we have to wrap up in 2 minutes. So the question is, I think it's probably for Eric or Aaron. Did you have to fine-tune the AI to evaluate the submitted work? For example, embedding reference materials into AI. So that probably refers to what, Eric, the table you showed.
So they mean
Eric,
refining the AI.
Did you have to fine-tune the AI to evaluate the submitted work?
I see.
For example, embedding reference
that's
materials
something that
into AI.
we're working on now with newer chatbots. That's something that's not currently fully built into the platform. So yes, we probably would.
Right.
And likewise, I can say that with brain health being the topic of that your chatbot is supposed to engage with, you really want to have really firm guardrails on more mental health focused concepts. If we're trying to deliver brain health strategies, we really want to avoid like a larger conversation about mental health maybe early on and really focus in on the specific strategy delivery. We've been working with a professor here at UT Dallas on doing just that and seeing if we can get a V1 of, a potential, have a very preliminary, probably shouldn't have said it, but it's still just kind of, there is definitely a targeted, conversation that you want to have with some of these types of models.
Okay, I think we just run out of time. Thank you very much for attending our session. I think that wraps up our panel session. Thank you all. Bye-bye now.